So many, many years ago, many moons ago, galaxy far, far away, when I went to Poly Prep in Brooklyn, we had a carpool. So my dad, Harvey, used to have those old, fancy Cadillacs, and he would pick up 3 or 4 kids every morning, and he would drive them to Bay Ridge, and the other fathers would do the same. One of the kids in the carpool was a kid named George Small. No one's ever heard of him. But the other 3 kids in this carpool turned out to be somewhat famous. The most famous of all is Joe Tacopina, famed defense attorney, dear buddy of mine. He's going to come on in about 2 minutes. I'm in that same carpool, and there's another guy by the name of Bruce Charrett. Bruce went on to go out to California, became like a comedian, a performer, a big-time agent, and there was a story in the New York Post about a month ago that Bruce got into a fist fight with our very own Tim Sabian from Westwood One at the Friars Club. So Tacopina sends me the story and goes, could you imagine that in 1982, between Bedford Avenue and Bay Ridge, Harvey Rosenberg had Sid Rosenberg, Joe Tacopina, and Bruce Charrett all in the back of the same car? And that's the truth. Here he is, famed defense attorney, the great Joseph Tacopina. Good morning, Joe.
That's it. You know, George Small was the smartest out of all of them.
He was. He had those Coke bottle glasses. He was mature. And, you know, and here's a great story about Tac, too. Tac leaves a pen in my father's car, ruined the back seat.
Oh, God.
Yeah, he never forgave you for that, so.
Oh, God. It wasn't that. I mean, we want to give the details. It's really even more funny. He had that brand new Cadillac with the white leather seats. And he picked us up from school. And I had that ballpoint big pen in the back of my pocket. And I sat in the back car when I got out of my house. It looked like a road map. I remember his face. And I remember thinking, I'm dead.
You're dead.
That was just horrible.
But you made up for it years later. And you've done this for everybody. You did it for Imus. You did it for Bernie. You've done it for me. You've done it for my dad. Because you're such an amazing attorney, and you've been my buddy for nearly 45 years, everybody goes to you, and you always do well by them, so you actually made it up to Harvey and Naomi. They're okay.
That's loyalty and friendship for me. That's I try to live my life based on that, those two credos. I mean, being loyal and being there for someone in time of need when you really show true signs of friendship. And you and I listen, you're my best friend from when I could, barely walk. So it's an amazing story. It really
yes.
is.
Joe and I were in the Polyglot, which is the Poly Prep yearbook. This is a true story now, I'm not exaggerating. We were the 2 people in our graduating class. You ready for this, Jill? Most likely not to succeed.
Shocker.
And here we are on the radio, and the rest of our guys are either in jail or trying to collect money in Bensonhurst somewhere. Anyway, big stories all this week, 3 in particular. Let's get to each and every one of them before we close with the Mets. Robert Mueller report comes out about a week ago. Not the whole report, not the detailed 300-page report, but we found out all we need to know, which is there was no Russian collusion, there was no obstruction. What were your thoughts when you heard that news a week ago today?
Well, my thoughts were that this is such a political mess that, obviously you sit on one side of the aisle or the other, and wherever you sit, you just blindly state facts without even knowing what you're talking about. I mean, I heard so much about this Russian collusion thing, and Mueller was someone who, and by the way, this really says a lot about Robert Mueller as a person and as an investigator and as a law enforcement official. I mean, Donald Trump was attacking him left and right, calling his investigation a witch hunt. And this guy came out and didn't lay a hand on him. I mean, didn't exonerate him completely, but certainly didn't say he was involved in collusion. And, this was a guy who was being attacked for over a year by Donald Trump. So, I mean, that shows you he's nonpartisan, and that's the way it has to be. But, my theory on the whole thing was that was going to be tough to prove anyway. Russian collusion. I mean, the Russians are saying no. Trump's saying no. And what? There was a meeting with some lunatic female lawyer who knew someone in the Kremlin who may have had dirt on Hillary Clinton. And, I mean, it seemed like a whole bunch of nonsense. Now, that's not to say there's not other problems lying ahead for Donald Trump. I mean, don't forget his lawyer, Michael Cohen, is going to jail. And the U.S. Attorney's Office in New York has claimed that Donald Trump is a co-conspirator in that case. I mean, he's obviously the unnamed individual won. So,
right.
There may be other problems, but no, as far as this is concerned, this was a good day for Donald Trump, and Donald Trump supporters because people have been hanging on this Russian collusion. I mean, there were people that were going out there making summary statements that this was already a fait accompli, and they were wrong, just dead wrong. And that's bad for both sides.
Joe Tacopina, you just mentioned Michael Cohen, Trump's attorney. And look, you are one of my best friends. I'm very close with Arthur Aidala. I'm very close with Danielle. In fact, I wake up next every morning. She's a fantastic attorney. So I'm surrounded by terrific attorneys. And you're smart and you're good people. So when a guy like Michael Cohen gets into trouble, it doesn't look good for you guys. But I got to tell you, Cohen, in my opinion, is not nearly as bad as this scumbag Avenatti, who now we find out is trying to milk 25 or 30 million out of Nike. This is the latest. What are your thoughts on that? And how bad, honestly, Tack, is Michael Avenatti for your profession?
Yeah, look, not the profession's proudest moment. And he was somebody who came out of nowhere. It was one of these lawyers who and I don't know him, so I don't know what he's done in his past, but he's had a whole host of problems, his bankruptcy filings and his law firms and whatnot. He's someone who latched onto Stormy Daniels. Stormy Daniels, who, by the way, came to me initially to represent her.
Is that right?
And it was just something that, absolutely, before Avenatti, yeah. And it was something that I just said was not, I just knew where this was going to go. This was a mudslinging contest more than a legal battle. And, it was just something that I wanted to stay above. I want to stay above it. I knew it was going to have to be an attack on Donald Trump, who's the president of this country. Like him or not, he's the president. And it was going to be more of a salacious mudslinging contest than any legal intellect being pounded here. So I just really wanted to sort of stay away from that, stay above the fray. And thank God, because, this guy took this, and for sure he was the most famous lawyer in America for about 15 minutes.
Right.
I mean, there's no doubt about that. He was on 100 million shows and, and doing all these things. But, when you put yourself up there like that, you better damn well be clean, completely clean. And, the Nike thing in New York and all that, the federal prosecutors in the Southern District of New York have indicted him on charges of extortion. Now, I don't know enough about the facts on that one. This is a tricky case because a lawyer is allowed to make demands and allowed to say, listen, if you don't resolve this,
right,
I'm going to go file a lawsuit. I'm going to go do that. That's part of being a lawyer. That's okay. There's obviously something where the Fed thinks he crossed the line. Now, it could have been some threat that was not based on fact, but based on, I'm going to extort you guys. If you don't give me this money, maybe it was unreasonable then. I'm going on. Listen, the bottom line is this. That's a problem for him. Anytime you get indicted by the Fed, it's a problem.
No, that's always bad.
That's nothing compared to what he's got going on in California.
Well, that's true. But listen, I know, but I want to get to California, and I want to get to another very high-profile attorney who was mentioned in this case, who seems to be skating by right now. Plus, Jussie Smollett. Can you hold on for 2 seconds?
Of course.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. We want to get the best and the full interview with Joe Tacopina. Lots more to discuss. We'll come right back on the Bernie and Sid show with Joe Tacopina right after this. Oh, this is perfect. Joe Tacopina, 2001 Space Odyssey, Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, with his high platform shoes and his white suit and his buff body. Marianne from Brooklyn listening right now in Brooklyn, loving the Brooklyn Poly Prep story. So last we left you, Tac, you were telling us that Michael Avenatti has some even bigger issues to worry about in the state of California, I guess is where you were going with that. What exactly were you trying to say?
Yeah, he's indicted on bank fraud and tax fraud out in California, and that's a federal case. And that's one where they're claiming he gave false tax returns to a bank to get a $4 million loan.
Oh, boy.
I mean, that's black and white, and that's big-time jail time. And they're looking, the prosecutors in Los Angeles, in federal court in Los Angeles, are looking for remand. They want him, when he goes to court next week to be arraigned, they want him jailed with no bail.
Right.
That's how bad this case is.
Wow.
He's got, so his 15 minutes, I think, is sufficiently.
Tac, another attorney mentioned in the Nike case with Avenatti, Mark Garagos, most recently, he's the guy that got Colin Kaepernick and Eric Reed a victory and paid by the NFL, but he's been involved, like you, major cases, Michael Jackson, blah, blah, blah. Now, he's named in this Nike thing, but they don't seem to be going after him. Is that because you think maybe he's flipping? Why is Garagos seemingly skating by?
They call him a co-conspirator, number one. Look, it could be that he's cooperating. I mean, I know Mark, he's a good lawyer and a good guy. I'm surprised if he did anything intentionally wrong. But, I think it could also be that maybe Avenatti was the guy saying everything, doing everything, and Geragos was just there. There could be, you can't just indict someone for sitting next to a lawyer who's making extortion demands, if he is. So I don't think we could figure out yet why Geragos is or is not, named. But we'll see. I think that'll unfold. I don't think he's got any problems, though. But who knows? I mean, it's just an insane turn of events. 60 seconds to go. Joe Tacopina, famed defense attorney. You know the names. You've represented everybody from the kid who played Little C in A Bronx Tale to Leonardo DiCaprio to Joran van der Sloot to Foxy Brown to Sid Rosenberg. A-Rod Meek Mill.
A-Rod Meek Mill.
And, of course, Sid Rosenberg.
That's right. So you've done all that. You've also been, for a while there, you may still own this. Pete Morgan talks about this all the time. I believe you still own the record for most penalty minutes in college hockey at Skidmore. Is that correct?
In a single season, yes. It's like Joe DiMaggio's history. It's never been broken. I mean, single season, tell him there's 410 minutes in one season. It was a particularly bad season.
Oh, that's great. And on top of all of that, you, like me, are a diehard New York Met fan. You texted me Cano after the home run right away yesterday. How excited are you one game into this new season?
It's clear we're winning the World Series. I mean, from yesterday you can tell that that's clearly what's going to happen. I mean, now that Grom has two great pitchers behind him and has a defense and actually a bullpen that's deep, we're going to do something special this year, I think. I love it. I really am excited.
I'm with you. You and I are going to sit next to each other, by the way, at Citi Field when we win that final game. I love it. Hey, you were fantastic today. You're always great. I love you to death. Two great segments. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend. We'll talk next week.